Hi everyone, good afternoon and welcome to today's webcast titled Building the Case for Green Infrastructure, Outreach and Education. This webcast is sponsored by EPA's Green Infrastructure Program and the Office of Wastewater Management. My name is Brittany Bennett with EPA's Green Infrastructure Program, and I will be moderating today's webcast along with my colleague Caitlin Amron. Thank you for joining us today. Before we get to our presentations, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. We'll have a question and answer session at the end of today's presentation. To ask a question, simply type your question into the questions box on your control panel and click the send button. If your control panel is not showing, click on the small orange box with the white arrow to expand it. You don't need to wait until the Q&A period to submit your question. In fact, there are a large number of participants today, so we highly encourage you to submit your questions early. We will try to answer as many questions as possible throughout the webcast. However, due to the high number of participants, not all questions will be answered. In the event that your question is not answered, please feel free to contact the speakers after the webcast. Speaker contact information will be available at the end of the presentation. If you have technical issues, such as audio problems, please call the GoToWebinar support number listed on the screen here, and give the assistant our conference ID number, also listed on the screen here. This webcast is being recorded and will be available on EPA's Green Infrastructure website within a few weeks. Lastly, we'd like to remind you that the materials and views of the speakers and the speakers' organizations are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the EPA. So now I'd like to kick off today's webcast by introducing our first speaker, Mike Heimos, who will be talking about Columbia, Missouri's Adopt a Rain Garden program. Mike Heimos is the City of Columbia, Missouri Stormwater Educator. He coordinates education and outreach programs for the Stormwater Utility, citywide staff training on BMPs for good housekeeping, and works with local community groups and organizations to help keep Columbia waterways clean and healthy. Now I will turn it over to Mike.
Hi, my name is Mike Heimos. I'm the Stormwater Educator for the City of Columbia, and I'm going to speak a little bit today about what we do here in Columbia, Missouri as a community, working with our residents and educating them about stormwater issues that we face in our everyday lives. I'm out of the Office of Sustainability for the City of Columbia. I primarily work out of the sewer utility, but I'm housed at the sewer utility, but I work out of the stormwater utility, which is how my position is funded. The City of Columbia is a town of about 100,000 people. We are a bustling community. We are a college town. And our number one thing that we do here is people. We are a town that's growing in size from year to year. A lot of student housing construction is occurring now, and the university is growing. Most of our industry is the University of Missouri and local hospitals, and then other industry like shelter insurance and other large entities. But one of the things we face as a town of 100,000 and growing in our suburban and urban areas is stormwater runoff. What we have to deal with, especially when we come to storm events and our impervious surfaces. All the stormwater comes in contact with all the debris on the ground, trash, litter, and it works its way into our local creeks and streams. We, like any other community, like to have a bustling community of activities and events for our citizens. It's what makes a community a good place to live and why people want to live there. But we also have to contend with all the things that brings, especially into our downtown area. We try to work very closely with organizers of local events, local business people, to make sure that we get the message out about litter and trash control during especially larger events citywide. We're a town of people that like to be outdoors. We have the largest trail system within the state, and we have a lot of activities, marathons, parades, things that bring people into the community. We are smack dab in the middle of the state. We are 2.5 hours from Kansas City, and we are two hours from St. Louis, two of the larger metropolitan cities. So we have a lot of people commute in for events, games, things that draw people in. Special events. We have a Show Me State Games, which is another big popular event that occurs here in the city over the summertime. But what we mostly have to deal with when we talk about the City of Columbia is people pollution. That is where our pollution comes from. There is no factory on a hill outside of town, the Acme Corporation, that's pumping pollutants into our local creeks and streams. It's us. It's our everyday activities as citizens in our town and the pollution that comes from that. We are a college town. We have the University of Missouri here. We also have other area colleges, Moberly Area Community College. We also have Stevens College, Columbia College, a population of over 100,000, but about 35,000 of that is the student population. And it adds up very quickly with all the events and activities that we have. All that trash and litter works its way into our local storm drain system and then onto our local creeks. I noticed a little lag here in the slide, so I'm going to slow down a little bit. But all these activities are our biggest concern, like I said, with people pollution, and constantly trying to educate our population about where that litter goes after the fun and games are done. All the music festivals, football games, show me state games, soccer games, you name it, we have it. And it brings a lot of trash in, and we're constantly working with our population to educate them about how our stormwater system works. We found our biggest bang for our buck has been over the many years that we have been a stormwater utility is educating our population, using our education and outreach program to get people to be concerned about their local watersheds, understand how your watersheds work, and just basically understand how the stormwater system works in general. Most people don't even realize how the system works. Here in our town, we have two separate systems. We have sanitary sewer and stormwater. So we're very lucky they're not combined. But in most cases, when we get calls and we have pollution issues, most people just don't understand the dynamics of how the system even works. When we do get calls on people that do pollute and we go out and we do speak to them, speaking to them is the first thing that we do before we start accusing anybody of anything. Most people, I can tell after doing this for about 10 years, just generally thought they were pouring it into this drain and it was going to go to some sort of facility and the water was going and the pollutant was going to be cleaned out. And once we explain to them how the system works and the detriment it has to our local watersheds, people were quite shocked. And education is our biggest bang for our buck. We're very good about recycling here. We have a citywide recycling program, and we work very closely with our partners at the University of Missouri in ensuring that we get as much refuse off the ground as we can and remind folks not to litter. We have great programs citywide. We work with a local organization that's statewide, Missouri Stream Teams, where we have regular and annual cleanups. We're very lucky to have the student population that we have in Columbia. We have a lot of volunteer opportunities, and we have a lot of people that show up to volunteer. We never have a shortage of having folks show up for events to help do roadside cleanups or local stream cleanups. I average a year about 100 stream cleanups citywide. That doesn't even include our Adopt a Litter Spot programs along the roadway and other various organizations that do cleanups too. So we're constantly out working with the public, reminding them and working with them to help clean up litter all over the city of Columbia. And it's a very successful program for us. And it's also a great educational tool to get people to see just in a short period of time how much litter can be collected on the side of a roadway. It's amazing what we can pick up in just about 45 minutes. And I think that's a real selling point to folks in education to see that it adds up, and it all adds up very quickly. Just real briefly, I'll explain a little bit about how we're set up under our MS4 permit. We're a little bit different. The University of Missouri, Boone County, and the City of Columbia under our MS4 permit are all considered one entity. I know instead of the EPA coming in and giving each separate entity their own permit, we all got together and decided we wanted to be judged as one. So we're all in the same boat. And it's very positive. It's been a very positive outcome for us. We've been a Stormwater Utility, was founded in the 1990s, and immediately within a year after that, the partnership between the county and the university has always been ongoing. We have always working together in tangent. There may be issues that occur on higher levels above me, but my colleagues at the county and at the university are always willing to be there and assist whenever needed. And I get the full backing of the university and the county with most of the programs that I do, so it makes it very easy to do my job, and it also makes us very successful in all the efforts we work towards. Under our permit, when we file it in April with the EPA, we file it as Show Me Stormwater Management. So that is the title we use on the permit. Slide's changing, there it goes. We file our permit at Show Me Stormwater Management. We have 15 watersheds within the city limits. The Hinkson is our largest. I'll wait for this slide the change here. We have 15 watersheds within the city limits. The Hinkson is the largest. It is over 89 square miles. It starts up in Hallsville, Missouri, works its way all the way through the city of Columbia, onto the Perchie Creek watershed, and then onto the Missouri River, and then on down to the Gulf of Mexico. We're trying to constantly educate our population about what watersheds they live in and the effect they have on their watersheds when it comes to litter and trash and pollutants, yard waste, dog waste, pesticides, herbicides, different things that they apply. Most of the city, like I said, is very residential and suburban. Of course, we always make the joke you can go 15 minutes in any direction and you're in the middle of nowhere. But we're pretty comparable to just a small suburb, smack dab in the middle of the state. Our program that we are going to talk about today is under the moniker of Adopt a Rain Garden. And this is a program we've started under our COMO Common Ground and Show Me Yards and Neighborhoods projects we do through the Stormwater Utility. The City of Columbia has over 300 BMPs citywide. Those are private and public. Out of those 300 BMPs, and most of these have been built since the 90s, up until today, they're required under our ordinances. So depending on new constructions, whether it's a biodetention basin, bioswale, underground detention, or a rain garden, it just depends on the circumstances. These are located on county, city, and university property. Of those 300, 125 are city-owned, and of those 125 city-owned BMPs, most of them being rain gardens are bioswales, 45 we've determined were adoptable. So 2 years ago, we were looking at how are we going to maintain under our own ordinances. We have an inspection program, so every citywide BMP has to be inspected yearly, and a report is turned into us, and we review that to make sure the BMP is in shape, that it's working, that it's got vegetation in it, that it's actually functioning and doing what it's supposed to do, one of our requirements under our MS4 permit. So out of the 125, we determined there were about 45 of them that were adoptable. And what I mean by adoptable is they were accessible by the public. We were trying to find locations that were easy access, that the public could get to. Most of these are in public right-of-way, places that we knew that would be easy to get to, people whether they had children or whatnot, and then we kind of rated them to from 1 to 4, depending on easy, mid-level, hard, very hard, just to kind of give a variety of different locations for groups depending on what they were looking for. Currently, of the 45 in the last 2 years, we have 23 that have been adopted. And this has been a partnership with MU Engineering. We have an intern program here at the city. We've used the kids from the engineering program to help with this. It's also been a group effort with our MS4 partners. We have several rain gardens that are adopted on MU property. And then a lot of these have been located, like I said, because of the way the city is in more suburban areas. So we've worked very closely with the neighborhood associations. These tend to be the folks when these weren't well kept, especially if they were city-owned, that may have had complaints about their look or the trash collecting in them. So we've worked very closely in educating our neighborhood associations and bringing them in as partners so that they can understand, what the purpose of a rain garden is, what it does, and why it's important for them to have it in their neighborhood, and why it's something that can be beautiful and it's something to keep. And then working, of course, with the volunteers to maintain the city-owned BMPs, and I'll go a little bit more into that as we move along here. So our program is Adopt a Rain Garden, and it is part of the city of the City Education and Outreach Program for the Stormwater Utility. We actually do it through the Public Works Department. Due to my position, I'm kind of the jack of all trades. So I have my hand in Public Works, I have my hands in Parks Department, I work very closely with the Water Department, and I also work very closely with Sanitary Sewer, and just kind of partner up on different programs that we can all assist one another with. We call the program ARG. It's our ARG program, which stands for Adopt a Rain Garden. That goes over very well with the kids, and we try to find catchy names for the programs that we do, especially when we're trying to get URLs for our website addresses. It makes it easier when you ask people to log in and they're like, how can I find out more about this? Well, we're ARG. Go to ARG Rain Gardens Program, City of Columbia, Missouri. We're going to talk about our Providence Road location. Providence Road was the first place we started when we started looking for areas to adopt out rain gardens. This was a project that was part of a grant we got from the federal government. It was called Get About Columbia, where bike trails were being built along city right-of-way for pedestrian use. This particular stretch was over 1.5 miles long, and there were 22 rain gardens along this stretch of roadway that were designed into this project. We deemed out of that number that 18 of them were adoptable. They were easily accessible to the public, and we chose this location too because we were trying to find an area where we could make these things kind of a jewel, kind of something that people could see immediately, that we could have signage, you could understand what it is. Before this project was built, this was a roadway where the Public Works Department got a lot of phone calls on and complaints about the grass wasn't cut enough, the weeds were too high. So this was an area that was deemed for the PedNet project, and then the rain gardens came into place during the design, and then once we've got that design done and then we had the rain gardens built, there was the maintenance issue, which always comes up with these. Just because you throw down some wildflower seed doesn't mean nature will take its way and it will just take care of itself. Especially the first few years that you plant these things, they have to be maintained. You have to keep the invasive weeds out so that the natives can flourish. These pictures are when we first planted a lot of these, just to give you an idea of the look and the design, and it makes them easier to see in photographs, of course. One of the things we learned right away over the years in building these, and I learned much more after this project along Providence Road, was you have to have an identifier. You have to, even if it serves no real purpose, identify out what the rain garden is, the design of the rain garden and the shape. This helps with our mowing crews, and it also helps with the public. Instead of it being that hole over there where all the water collects in after it rains, it gives it a little bit of identification, the shape, the size. The mowing guys know to go around it. Then we worked with our local college students who volunteered their time in the summer to come in and help us take care of these the first few years that they were installed. We used kids from the local engineering school. We also used local high school kids who came in who actually were in a work program, and basically they were our maintenance crew on this site for 2 summers in a row to help pull weeds, help put mulch berms around the rain gardens that identify them for the mowers, make sure the signage was up and didn't get knocked down or get taken away, pick up any litter and trash. And it was a great summer program, and we had a great group of participation from the young people that were involved. It was a little hard for my bosses at first. No one's too keen on giving a bunch of 20-year-olds and teenagers and sticking them in a truck and having them go out and run around the city, but it was quite successful, and we are in our 5th year of doing that now on other BMP projects. It helped us with the maintenance issue. That's the issue that always arises with these. We have crews. We're supposed to be filling potholes. We're supposed to be fixing streets. Then these things have to be maintained, and we have quite a lot of them. So we found, using the intern program and using the high school kids in the summertime to come out for 9 weeks to groom, to take care, to plant, to replant, to cut back weeds, to mulch, to maintain, has helped us keep these in compliance with our own ordinances, and also has helped cut down on complaints, especially when they have gotten out of hand in the past. One of the things that I think is most important is signage. I think explaining to the public what it is they're looking at, what does it do, how can I find out more about it, and giving credit to those that have adopted them, I think, is the most important thing. Lots of times, I will be honest, I think signage gets a little out of hand. I think it needs to be simple. What does it do? And how can I find out more about it? I think that in many cases you'll go out to something and it'll be like the Magna Carta of rain gardens. You know, rain gardens were invented by John Raingarden in 1888, and then it goes into this. It's a 2-pager. You got to stand there and read both panels. You know, we try to get this information out in the most educational way as we can possible. And we try to locate them in areas where we know we'll have high volumes of people that will get a lot of foot traffic. This is an example of one of our local recycling center. We also make sure that the groups that adopt the rain gardens, and the groups are varied. We have everything from college students to Girl Scouts to local businesses, that they get the credit, that folks know that this is their garden, that they are taking care of it. I know lots of other cities have adopt a spot programs along the roadway for road beautification. We've modeled this the same after our own adopt a spot program throughout the city of Columbia. But instead of a spot, it is a spot. It's a rain garden spot. It's about attention swell. And making sure they get that credit. I mean, it means a lot to people when they come out and they work very hard on something, to know that it's theirs. Sometimes, we get a little jaded, I think, in government, but, it means a lot to people to help out in the community, especially when they're volunteering their time. We also found, and it was very helpful, we came up with these no-mow signs. We had some issues, and over the years that I've been here, our crews, of course, our mowing crews switch over from year to year. We try to educate. We have classes with them in the beginning of the season, but things are going to happen. We've also had issues with MoDOT coming in and accidentally mowing rain garden areas. Again, trying to keep the sign simple, explaining what it is, not going into great detail, but this is why this area is not being mowed. We found what was funny on Providence, the volumes of phone calls they got for years there have dwindled down to nothing. People walk by, they see it, they're like, oh, it's supposed to look like that. Oh, I get it. Okay. And they move on. They may agree with it, they may not, but as long as we keep the area maintained, and I think the signage is in place, I think that helps a lot in not only educating the population, but also explaining, what we're doing, why we're doing it, the purpose behind it, and it's been helpful for us. We have had other projects that we have worked on when we talk about Adopt a Rain Garden, and we've expanded on the program a little bit over the years, how it came about, but it all started with our firehouses. When we've had new firehouses constructed over the last 15 years, stormwater BMPs were implemented into the site design. We've had a few issues that the fire department was very, how should I say, letting me know that we were having some rain garden drainage issues on some of our properties. They sent me delightful emails along with photographs letting me know they weren't very happy with some of the rain gardens that they had on their properties that weren't draining properly. I took the joke very well, and we all get along very well here as a group. So I took the opportunity to go, hey, you know what, these weren't constructed properly. Let's go out, let's take a look at them. How can we fix them? We had a local youth group here called, oh, it's on the tip of my tongue, and it just escaped my head. Columbia Builds. And these guys are young guys and women that may have not graduated from high school or had some trouble in their high school years and are learning the trade of construction. So I met with them, and we went out and we did everything that they needed to do that they would have done at a construction site. We tackled this rain garden location at the firehouse as a real construction site, at least in their eyes, so that they could get the training. We probably went a little overboard on some of the procedures that we used, but it was an opportunity for them to learn a practice that's becoming very common, and to build something, that they did on their own. We did everything from site plan to design to getting the machines out there and running it and getting everything built. Then once we got the rain garden constructed, and we knew that we were taking on and got an under drain in it, so kind of changed up the design of it a bit. We got local volunteers to come in and plant that. So then we had the youth build organization. We've had the local volunteers come in and plant and spread the rock and plant all the natives. And this is what it looked like 3 years later, and it's doing even better now. This picture is about 2 years old, this final picture here, but it was something that was the first that we did, and we thought, we can replicate this citywide. Why can't we? And then we found a local veterans group from our Veterans Hospital that adopted it for us. They came in, and they come 3 times a year. That's the one thing I think that makes adopting these rain gardens so popular, is it doesn't take a lot of time. You don't have to be out there every week. We only require them to be there 3 times a year, and they come out and they do a fantastic job, and they help with the maintenance issue. this would fall actually on the fire department, and these folks take care of it for them. And we work with other groups at other firehouses where there's adopted spots to educate just the local people, and again, working with the neighborhood associations in those areas to get folks out to come out and improve water quality and help keep the spots beautiful and help the rain gardens function as designed. I'll go one more slide here, and then I'll move on to the next part. So again, giving these folks notoriety when they do things. We are very big on using social media, letting folks know and thanking them for the work that they do. And again, through the signage, we use email and Facebook groups to talk with folks. Personal contact is a big part of what we do. We meet with the groups as often as we possibly can when requested. We meet with them on the first initial contact. There's some great literature out there. I'm not big on recreating anything. I think it's wonderful that people spend weeks and hours and months creating brochures that have the city logo and everything on them. I don't do that. There are so many other places that have created great materials, great usable materials that are just as good to use for us, and of course giving them acknowledgement for the use of their materials. But we keep in touch with most of these folks via email, send them reminders and updates saying, hey, you know, it's spring, it's fall, you might want to get out and do this, you might want to do that, here's some tips, here's the guide again if you didn't have it, holler at us if you have any questions. And then making sure, again, that they get the notice, talking to local newspapers and having folks come out and do stories. And then we have our Como Common Ground Facebook group, which a lot of these folks go back and forth and talk to one another that have adopted. We had people this year actually trading plants that they had felt that were kind of taking over the rain garden, but of course they were natives and they just were trying to cut them back, so they actually called folks at other rain gardens and contacted them on the Facebook group to see if they could pot it up for them if they wanted to plant some of this in their rain garden. So it's been a very, very positive thing for us all around. We constantly are trying to change things up, and this year we have been building rain gardens. We are working with groups to build rain gardens with smaller gardens. We have Boy Scout groups. We've also had our engineering students design from the get-go. It was a one-year process where they came in and they designed a rain garden for one of our recycling centers. We knew it was a high-profile location we had a lot of people coming to. So the guys came in. They came up with their own design. We had money set aside during the construction from the Solid Waste Division that were building this recycling center location. The guys came up with the design. They picked all the plants out. They had to go pick them up. Of course, we hired a local excavator to come in and do all the work. But these guys designed, planted, and built this rain garden on the side of our recycling center site, and it's quite a feat to see. They put a lot of hard work in, and it looks great. Again, we also used educational signage to let people know what it is and what it does, and to create an atmosphere of education. I think it's the biggest bang for your buck, like I said. It costs you no money. A lot of these things, like I said, we were required to do them already, and we might as well use these locations as education and outreach sites to let people know why it's important to protect their local watersheds. You know, the one thing I say here all the time when I talk to people is you fish, you hunt, do you take your kids swimming? Where do you think all that water comes from? This is how it works. Water doesn't come in a bottle on a shelf at Walmart. I wish it did, but it doesn't exactly come that way. So you've got to protect it. And that's what we try to educate people about, is personal responsibility and making sure they take care of this nation's best natural resource, which is our local waterways. That is it. Thank you for listening, and I'll be happy to take questions after the end of the next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, for sharing your presentation on how your community comes together to maintain best management practices, or BMPs, in Columbia. That was really interesting to hear, and we've gotten a lot of really great questions so far. Just a reminder that our Q&A is going, or our question and answer session is going to be at the end of both presentations, and questions must be submitted through your control panel, just in case you missed that at the beginning. So before we launch into our next speaker, which is Madison Quinn, we're going to launch a poll to estimate how many people are viewing this webinar. This will remain on the screen for 2 to 3 minutes, and you're not going to hear anything from us for those 2 to 3 minutes. So if you could answer that poll and let us know how many people are in the room with you, that would be great. Thank you. Thank you to everybody who answered our poll. We're going to close that now. I'd now like to introduce our next speaker, Madison Quinn, who will be talking about Onondaga County's Save the Rain program. Madison Quinn serves as project coordinator for the Save the Rain program at the Onondaga County Department of Water Environment Protection. She coordinates the Save the Rain education and outreach programs and curates the vast array of open source content on the Save the Rain website. Previously, she worked as a public information specialist for Onondaga County Water Environment Protection and as a program coordinator at the Onondaga County Executive's Office. Madison earned a Master of Public Administration degree from the Maxwell School at Syracuse University and a Bachelor of Science degree in Environmental Science and Policy from Clarkson University. She also volunteers with several nonprofit organizations, including the New York Water Environment Association. Now I'll pass it on to Madison.
Okay, thank you very much. And as Brittany said, I'm going to be discussing Onondaga County's Save the Rain program, and specifically our public education and outreach efforts here in Onondaga County in Syracuse, New York. Just a quick overview of my presentation. I'm going to go through a little background and history to give you some context, then get into the details of the Save the Rain program, some of our green infrastructure projects, our community partnerships and triple bottom line benefits, all the details of our education and outreach, and some of the water quality improvements we've seen. And then I believe we're opening it to questions from both panelists. So just to give you an idea of where we are, in case you're not familiar with Onondaga County, you may be familiar with Syracuse, New York. We're right in central upstate New York. You can see the red highlighted county there is Onondaga County. Kind of right smack dab in the middle there is the city of Syracuse, our major metropolitan area. And then I broke it out further to our combined sewer sheds. In Mike's presentation, he was talking about the separate sewer system in Columbia. Well, we have a combined sewer system as well as some separate sewer system areas, but I'm going to be speaking specifically about the efforts in our combined sewer area. Our green infrastructure program is primarily aimed at reducing combined sewer overflows, and we have kind of 3 different sewer sheds and then priority areas you can see shaded in different colors on that map, just to give you an idea of the spatial setup here. Some facts about Onondaga Lake. All of our projects are in the Onondaga Lake watershed, and that covers about 285 square miles. However, the lake is a rather small lake. It's only a mile wide, about 4.6 miles long. At its deepest, it's about 63 feet, average of 35 feet. It's a bit of a small lake, but the watershed really covers a vast array of different land uses, and I'm going to talk specifically about our program in the city of Syracuse, so the urban environment. And just a quick timeline to give you some background. Our little lake here has had storied history, had some industrial contamination issues, and it was a super fun site, as well as the combined sewer overflow issues that we're addressing. So in the old days, the swimming and fishing was banned, and then there were a series of lawsuits. And really a huge turning point was when our visionary county executive, Joni Mahoney, came into office in 2008 and went back to the federal court and asked for an extension to really rethink how we were going to abate our combined sewer overflows. Because the previous plan, in addition to upgrades to our treatment plant, included construction of regional treatment facilities, so basically mini sewage treatment plants throughout the city of Syracuse, and that was not supported by the community. So the county executive really wanted to switch gears and went back to the court, asked for an extension, and then we amended our consent judgment to use a combination of green and gray infrastructure. We had implemented that starting in 2009. Our project started going on the ground in 2010, and we really hit the ground running in 2011 when the county executive stated in her State of the County address that we would advance at least 50 distinct green infrastructure projects in the calendar year, and that was called Project 50. And we actually exceeded that goal and advanced 60 projects that year, and really kept that momentum going. We completed a couple of major milestones in 2013 with 2 big underground storage facilities on the gray side of our infrastructure. And now we have over 180 green infrastructure projects, which I'm going to talk a little bit about. And we've actually are ahead of the curve on the total amount of capture of the runoff that we're managing to prevent combined sewer overflows, CSOs. And so just to give you an overview, as I said, the county executive, Joni Mahoney, wanted to find a better way to meet our environmental goals that didn't have the concerns that the community had about the regional treatment facilities. There were environmental justice concerns, and it was not supported by the community. So she really wanted to find a way that we could meet those water quality goals and reduce those combined sewer overflows in a way that was more beneficial to the community. And what came out of that effort was a combined approach using some gray infrastructure. We couldn't do it with green alone. We have some underground storage facilities, and we upgraded some conveyances. And we've done select sewer separations in areas where there was separate sewer to tie into, and it made sense. But a lot of different green infrastructure, which the community has been really excited about and has been a really great public outreach and education opportunity for the county and to engage the community. So we have a whole portfolio of green infrastructure projects. Here's just a snapshot of a few of them. Kind of in the upper left corner is Green Street project I'll talk about. We have cisterns and rain barrels, porous pavement of various types, our tree planting program, which I'll get into later, some great projects at local parks and our zoo here, and a 66,000 square foot green roof at our on-center convention center in downtown Syracuse as well. It captures about 1 million gallons of water per year. That's pictured in the bottom right-hand corner. So that there's kind of a whole variety of large and small, different green infrastructure technologies, but all really aimed at capturing rainwater where it falls and preventing it from overwhelming our sewer system, which can harm the water quality in our tributaries to Onondaga Lake. So as I said, we have a couple of Green Street examples here. We have several green streets around the city of Syracuse. I think the slide's still transitioning, but it's basically different features to capture rainwater. There it is. To capture rainwater on the block and infiltrate it into the ground before it gets into the sewer system. So these are also really aesthetically pleasing projects as well. A lot of folks that may not even be aware of stormwater management but are just appreciative of more attractive and welcoming pedestrian areas as well. We have the rain garden sort of built into the sidewalk, and these porous pavers here allow water to sink down below the parking lanes as well. And each of these projects capture over 1 million gallons of water per year. All the project details are on our website, which I'll talk about a little later, savetherain.us. We have a lot of great projects, both in city and county parks, and so we are constantly collaborating with different departments. I'm in the Department of Water Environment Protection, which is our sanitary and stormwater sewer department, but we are working with both the Onondaga County Parks Department and the City of Syracuse Parks Department on various projects. On your screen now is Leavenworth Barker Park. We did these rain gardens built in all along the perimeter of the park to capture the runoff there from the streets and from the sidewalks on the outside of the park. We also worked with the Jim and Julie Boeheim Foundation. Coach Boeheim is the coach of Syracuse University's basketball team, and they have a philanthropic foundation that was working to upgrade porous pavement, or was working to upgrade pavement on basketball courts throughout the city of Syracuse. So we said, why not make it porous pavement as well? And we were able to implement now 5 parks we've done, and we're going to be doing a 6th in the spring with these porous pavement basketball courts that have really great benefits to the community in having a rehabilitated basketball court to play on, but also soaking up a lot of storm water. And there's no puddles after the rainstorm, so that's appreciated by all the basketball enthusiasts here. And right next door to that is a nice rain garden here as well, soaking up rainwater from the sidewalk. And another collaboration with our Onondaga County Parks Department is the Rosamond Gifford Zoo. So we have a really great zoo here in Syracuse that the county runs, and it is a really excellent education and outreach opportunity. We have really fantastic interpretive signage throughout the zoo showing all the different green infrastructure. You can see there's a variety here. We have a green roof on the elephant barn that's in this top left corner. Right at the entranceway is this nice cascading waterfall. There's roof leaders. It's hard to see in this picture, but it actually looks like an elephant spout, and the water comes down the downspout here and drips into this system, and the kids can really see it flowing through this recirculating system here. We have porous pavement in our courtyard, and rain garden along the primate exhibit. And this is actually a recirculating wetland in the middle of the zoo connecting all of the waterfowl exhibits. They used to drain out all of that water every couple of weeks all summer long and fill it with clean water, but now we've implemented this wetland system that recirculates the water and uses plants to clean the water. It's a huge savings on maintenance. It's a lot less water going into our sewer system, and they don't have to pay to refill it with potable water every couple of weeks. And then we have some very big green infrastructure right at the entrance here, some big rain gardens as well. We have worked with Onondaga County Public Libraries as well. Next up, I'm going to talk about our green libraries here. I think the slide is still loading. There it is. So 5 different libraries, all within the city of Syracuse in the combined sewer shed, have green infrastructure installed. So we have everything from some big rain gardens right here, porous pavers in the parking lot, porous pavement, also a green roof. This was right after it was finished, so it still has the wind blanket on. But there is a green roof under there, and some rain gardens and some porous pavement sections as well, which is another great educational opportunity. We find that doing these projects in community locations where people are already going to learn, like the zoo and the libraries, offers a really great opportunity to engage people who are already in that mode and excited to learn. So that's been another very visible group of projects in the community. We've also worked with our schools, another great learning environment, working with Syracuse City School District. This is an example from Hughes Magnet School, and they have collaborated with us on a few different projects. First, we did their parking lot in porous pavement right here. That was, again, right after it was done, and the plantings are just starting to grow in. We also had a big tree planting event there on Arbor Day one year, where the kids came out and planted trees with us. And we were able to work on a couple of actual vacant lot projects, as well as the playground area. There are some vacant lots sort of adjacent to the school, and the school was caring for them, so we were able to implement some green infrastructure on those lots too to capture the rainwater and provide an educational opportunity and an aesthetically pleasing addition to the landscape with these rain gardens. To date, we have over 180 green infrastructure projects completed and several more underway. As I said before, our goal by 2018 was our court-ordered mandate was to have 95% capture in terms of the water we're capturing, the runoff we're capturing, and the CSOs we're preventing. We're actually over 96% now between the green and gray infrastructure projects. And we're continuing to improve water quality and implement green infrastructure. And we're actually expanding our goals to include keeping street litter out of our water, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But we're not slowing down just because we're ahead of the curve and getting to our 2018 goal doesn't mean we're stopping now. We're just becoming much more strategic in terms of where we're implementing green infrastructure and kind of getting the most bang for our buck. And some of that includes how much public outreach opportunities there are with it as well. So we have a lot of partnerships. I've mentioned a few of them already. Obviously, I work for Onondaga County, and this is a county program. We're working with other Onondaga County departments on a regular basis, especially the Parks Department. The City of Syracuse, we couldn't do it without collaborating with the City of Syracuse. It's interesting because we own the sewers, but the City of Syracuse owns the land on top of them. So all the work that we do in the city right-of-way and on vacant lots and on city parks and working with the Department of Public Works of the City of Syracuse to work on road projects as well. So it's constant collaboration between city and county, which we do without their collaboration. We worked with New York State Department of Environmental Conservation very closely, as well, of course, as U.S. EPA. They're our regulators, but also our partners. We were lucky enough to be recognized by EPA in 2011 as a Green Infrastructure Partner Community, which was a great honor. We also have a public-private partnership called the Green Improvement Fund, and we've completed 88 projects to date on private property. It's a reimbursement program, so the private property owners propose the projects that they want to implement on their private property, and we have an application process, and they're awarded funding based on the amount of green infrastructure, and then they agree to install and maintain that green infrastructure for at least 10 years or more. We also had a great project called the Connective Corridor, which we worked with Syracuse University and the City of Syracuse. They had a Tiger grant from the Federal Highway Authority to do road rehabilitation connecting the university with downtown Syracuse, and we said, hey, why don't we install some green infrastructure while we're at it? And it was a really great collaborative opportunity. Really excellent team of community outreach partners, which I'm going to talk about. Onondaga Earth Corps, I'm going to get into some details about. They're a really great green jobs training organization that work with youth and young adults in the city of Syracuse, much like the organization that Mike referred to, the Columbia Bills Group. Onondaga Earth Corps is our local conservation corps. Cornell Cooperative Extension of Onondaga County is another great partner. Baltimore Woods Nature Center is a local nature center in the southern part of our county that collaborates with us to do a lot of our in-school education. And Onondaga County Resource Recovery Agency, OCRA, is our solid waste entity here in Syracuse. They do run our award-winning recycling program and manage our garbage collection. So we've been working with them a lot on the litter reduction that I mentioned earlier. So we have a lot of different activities going on with these different groups. As I mentioned, Onondaga Earth Corps, they've been involved in green infrastructure maintenance, peer education, rain garden demonstration projects, as well as our tree planting program along with Cornell Cooperative Extension. We've held a whole variety of workshops, including rain barrel workshops. We hold several of those every year. I'll talk about our residential rain barrel program in a few minutes. Rain gardens, how to install a rain garden for those who are interested in doing that at home, as well as maintenance. We've held a variety of maintenance workshops for folks. As Mike said, when you have turnover of staff that are maintaining these things, they might not be familiar what a rain garden is or what porous pavement is or how to care for it. So we regularly hold maintenance workshops to educate folks on city and county staff who are encountering green infrastructure, as well as those grant recipients that I mentioned from our private property owner partners for how to properly maintain their green infrastructure. The Nature in the City program I'll discuss, that's with Baltimore Woods Nature Center, which I mentioned before. They run our third grade education program, which has been tremendous. Connect the Drops is our litter reduction outreach program that I've alluded to. And I'll talk about our website and social media activity as well. So green jobs, a big component of the Save the Rain program, has been supported by Onondaga Earth Corps and our partnership with them. They are a green jobs training organization that hire youth and young adults from the city of Syracuse. They're really great team members. You can see a whole variety of activities from building rain gardens here and here, doing tree plantings, rain garden maintenance, great community tree planting events, education at local festivals and gatherings, and a tremendous partner. They employ youth ages 15 to 18 and young adults ages 19 to 25 working in spring, summer, and fall seasons, and a whole variety of different crews. As I mentioned, there's the tree planting crew, the Connect the Drops litter reduction crew, there's the green infrastructure maintenance crew, and they're also doing some historic preservation work with other groups. They've employed over 200 youth and young adults to date in about 11 years. I think they started in about 2004, so more than that, 12 years, 13 years now. And the crews are trained on green infrastructure installation and maintenance and best practices, and they train other people in the community, especially working on tree planting and rain gardens. They've helped install rain gardens at different community locations and help the people who are maintaining those rain gardens learn how to do so properly. The tree planting program has been really successful, mostly aimed at street trees and along roadways and in medians, and it's been really tremendous. We've planted over 6,300 trees to date, and over half of those have been planted by Onondaga Earth Corps members, and they work with Cornell Cooperative Extension as well. They do door-to-door outreach to find their neighbors who want street trees planted. It is in the city right-of-way, but we like to have the buy-in from the adjacent landowners. So they knock on doors, and when they actually are able to speak to someone, they have about 75% yes rate or more. So it's really great to have these ambassadors in our community. They're invaluable. We really couldn't do it without them, because people are shockingly much more interested in talking to people who are their friends and neighbors and nephews and nieces and cousins and friends, rather than, hi, I'm Madison from the government. So they're really great ambassadors in the community, planting trees and educating tree adopters. We have had a whole number of people who have adopted the trees that are planted outside of their house and agreed to water them and prune them and care for them just because they wanted to. We also have a residential rain barrel program. Over 1,800 free rain barrels have been given to homeowners at workshops. It's a great public engagement tool. Above and beyond the amount of water that's captured by these rain barrels is the opportunity to have the captive audience of people who are excited to get a rain barrel and be a part of the program. And it's a huge public outreach opportunity, because you have this captive audience. They have to attend a workshop, and then they get to take a rain barrel home, and they have to sit and listen to our spiel, and they ask great questions and get really engaged that way. Lots of times they'll return to volunteer for a tree planting event or something like that. We actually were able to start this program with a Green Innovation Grant from the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation. That's the agency that services the State Revolving Fund. They have this great grant program that is to incentivize green infrastructure. So our first order of rain barrels started with that grant assistance as well. Baltimore Woods, again, is a really great nature center that they already had a Nature in the City program where they were going into city schools, Syracuse City School District, and teaching kids about nature and engaging them in activities in nature in the urban environment. And all of the third graders in Syracuse City School District are now learning about green infrastructure, stormwater runoff, and water quality. We have some really great analytics with pre and post tests that they're really learning this stuff. It's very exciting when I'm at a, tabling at an event or something, and little kids come up to me and they're like, I learned about this in third grade. So it's been really tremendously successful, and the kids are really engaged and excited to learn. They have some classroom activities where they learn about green infrastructure and how it works, and then they actually get to go out and see some green infrastructure and then splash around in the stream. I've got so many good pictures of kids, getting excited about the seeing what critters live in the stream here. Litter, I've mentioned previously. I think the slide's still loading here, but our Connect the Drops program is our latest component to our education and outreach portfolio. And Connect the Drops is really a holistic approach to keeping trash and debris out of our waters. We didn't want to build more expensive floatable control facilities that clean litter out of the water after it's already in there. We wanted to instead keep the street litter from reaching the water. So we have a combined approach. We've been doing increased catch basin maintenance and adding hoods to catch basins to try to prevent trash from entering the system that way. But also public engagement is really critical to our success in this endeavor. Now that we've done so much work to reduce combined sewer overflows, street litter is really our biggest challenge in the coming years, because that really gets down to individual behavior. So we've been working with a great local marketing agency, Pinky Hugo Group, and to develop video, radio, on-street, and social media advertising related to litter reduction. If you go to savetherain.us/drops, that's got sort of our landing page for our Connect the Drops initiative. We also have Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube activity. We have about 3 different Connect the Drops videos on our YouTube page now. Great social media engagement on this as well. And we wanted to really get some on-the-street marketing, so we've done some bus shelter wraps throughout the city of Syracuse, and this really cool rain-activated messaging here. So when it's dry, you can't see anything, but once it rains, the water makes the message appear. It's sort of a waterproof spray that we put on there that's totally biodegradable and environmentally friendly, but it kind of is a little reminder when it rains that trash and debris can be washed right into tributaries or into our sewer system and really muck up the works. So this was just launched this year, so we're measuring the success and engagement and building on that in the coming years. I mentioned before the Save the Rain website. SaveTheRain.us is a huge abundance of information, and we invite everyone to steal our projects, see what we're up to, different projects we've done, from community rain gardens and tree planting efforts to green roofs and porous pavement. All of our information is open source, fact sheets, project plans, technical specifications, photos, everything. We invite you to use and replicate in your community. I've already mentioned a lot of these things, but we do love the triple bottom line benefits, the social, economic, and environmental benefits of this green infrastructure program, and that's a big part of our outreach is educating the community on all the benefits, not just the environmental benefits, but the other benefits to them. The collaboration, as I mentioned before, really helps us stretch our dollars. Our capital dollars stretch a lot further when the Parks Department is working with the Sewer Department, which didn't always happen. The social and economic benefits is streetscape revitalization, this improving property values and aesthetics, and the huge educational opportunities, which I've already been outlining, as well as the green jobs. Installing and maintaining green infrastructure will be, continuing jobs in the coming years, as we're still going to, even when we're not building so much, we're still going to have to maintain. We have seen tremendous results from this program. Our water quality improvements are really remarkable. The recovery in the ecosystem since we began these improvements, both green and gray. We're seeing, better dissolved oxygen. We're seeing lower phosphorus, and Onondaga Lake is now kind of on par or better than some of our other local area lakes. The Finger Lakes are nearby. Oneida Lake is also nearby. So you can see it used to be Onondaga Lake was sticking out like a sore thumb, but since we've been doing these green infrastructure projects, we're really seeing it coming back and recovering. And the wildlife is really excellent. We've vastly improved the species diversity. We've measured at least 53 species of fish through our county sampling efforts. And we're having bald eagles return to the lake as well. It's very exciting that these iconic birds, as well as a whole variety of other birds, are visiting the lake and fishing there. And it's a good sign of a healthy ecosystem that we're seeing the species diversity. And now we're getting to the point, and again, this is an ongoing public outreach effort because Onondaga Lake had so many challenges and such a sort of storied past that we're, as a community, having to adjust to seeing Onondaga Lake as an asset rather than a liability. That, we're seeing this remarkable recovery, and it's a huge recreation, environmental resource. We had some fishing tournaments. The Bassmasters were here this summer, the rowing and boating. We had this great Onondaga Lake Fest that brought the rowing competitions back to Onondaga Lake, and really great trails. Our county's working on the Loop the Lake Trail. That'll really be another great recreational resource as well. And the Lakeview Amphitheater, you can see this photo here, is from one of the sold-out concerts this summer that nobody ever thought they would want to go to concerts on the shore of Onondaga Lake, but now it's this beautiful resource, and our whole community is getting to enjoy that. And with that, I conclude my presentation. I know I went through a lot of information there, and I'm happy to answer any questions along this line.
Thank you, Madison, for sharing the Save the Rain program with us. That zoo looked like a lot of fun. We've had a lot of really great questions come in, so we are going to get right into those. The first question we have is for both Madison and Mike. We've had a lot of questions come in regarding funding. What are your funding sources in terms of who provides maintenance, who funds your staff, things like that. Maybe talk about your top 1 or 2 primary funding sources. How about Mike? I'll turn it over to you first.
I tried to stick to the Adopt a Rain Garden program, but it's, when you have this limited amount of time to talk at these things. So the Adopt a Rain Garden program is part of our bigger B&P inspection program for the city. And where we came to the conclusion for having them adopted out was the maintenance issue and the cost. So we have a group, as I mentioned, of young individuals that we hire in the summer, young men and women from the engineering school that come in, along with our grass cutting crews also, which are young men and women that are out of the engineering school and take internship positions within the city. We use them to manage and maintain citywide B&Ps so that we can keep our other crews out working. The adopt part section of it came from, we had a successful adopt a spot program, roadside beautification program that was working quite well, and after meeting with those folks, we decided, well, why don't we give it a go with the rain gardens? The first year we did it, because they came to me and they were like, well, how much do you think it's going to cost? And I had asked for a couple $1,000s. In my mind at that time thinking, tools, gloves, shovels, picks, that kind of thing. What we found funny with the first couple of groups that we met with, as soon as we brought that up, they went, oh, no, we'll just bring that. We don't need you to, then we're going to have to meet with you, and then we're going to have to return this stuff. So other than what we spent, I think this last summer I can speak of, we had quite a few rain gardens that needed to either be replanted or reseeded. I think we spent maybe $1,500 on 3 gardens to replant them. They already had species of natives in them, but we were just trying to spruce them up and add a little more. Just the adopt a part of the BMP program has really cost us next to nothing. Now, when we talk about staffing for the summer help and the citywide BMP program, that's $60,000 a year that we use to hire 12 young people for the summer. It's basically 12 weeks. And those young people also assist us with educating. So if we have new adopters that come on, or an adopter of a rain garden needs mulch delivered or compost delivered, those young people that work for us for the summer do those tasks for us to get those to the adopters. But again, like I said, when we talk about this year, what I spent probably in having mulch delivered, compost, and reseeding or replanting 3 of the rain gardens, it was under a couple grand. If that answers the question.
Great, thank you, Mike. Madison, the same question to you. How much does this program run you, and how do you fund your program?
Sure. So in terms of funding the whole program, we have our department budget is all out of our sewer use fee. We are an agency of Onondaga County government, but we're not a general fund agency, so it's all out of our sewer use fee. We don't have a water fee. There's talk of maybe something, but
more information.
Hasn't been some.
Really quickly, let's make sure everybody has their microphones on mute. Sorry, Madison, and please continue.
Sure, yeah. So we have the sewer use fee, which funds our whole department, the Department of Water Environment Protection. And then within that department, we have our funding that goes towards our CSO abatement program under the amended consent judgment that I mentioned earlier. And we have a budget for each of the sewer sheds for building the project, green or gray. And then we have a dedicated education and outreach budget. It kind of varies from year to year how much funding gets added to the education and outreach budget, but it kind of fluxes between, I don't know, about $300,000 and $600,000 dollars in our budget that rolls over year to year. But to give you a little breakdown of some of the different elements I mentioned, our 3rd grade program with Baltimore Woods is about just under $47,000 a year, contracting with them. Onondaga Earth Corps and Cornell Cooperative Extension have our tree planting contract, which is a little over $300,000 a year. And our green infrastructure maintenance work is about $175,000 a year. And our marketing budget, including the Connect the Drops program, is about $200,000 a year. So it varies a little from year to year on how much funding is allocated for the education and outreach, but all of it is coming from pretty much all of it is coming from our sewer use fee. We have been able to get a few grants. One place I mentioned was New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation has provided some grant funding for different green infrastructure projects, including our rain barrel program. Also, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation did award us some funding under the Water Quality Improvement Program, which again is awarded through the state. But we get grants where we can, but for the most part, it's coming from our ratepayers, our user fee there.
Great, thank you, Madison. Our next question.
And I guess for me to answer that, if they wanted the full nutshell of my program, it's $17,000 a year.
Great, thank you, Mike. So, Mike, our next question is for you. many have been asking, how long have you been running the Adopt a Rain Garden program? How has it changed from its first year to now? And how do you plan on expanding it?
Well, we'll be in year 3 this year. We started small, like I said, when we started the program. We looked at the Providence Road location because those were the easily accessible rain gardens. We have rain gardens also of the 23 I spoke of at local firehouses. So we used the firehouses and we used Providence Road. That first year out of the gate, we really thought maybe we'd be lucky and we'd have 2 or 3 people that would be interested. And as soon as we kind of opened it up, we had an explosion of folks that wanted to do it. And I think the reason that was the requirement on these, so we run it just like we do our Adopt a Spot beautification program. We have a contract with the folks. They have to sign up for a 2-year commitment. But with us, it's only 3 times a year is the expectation. Now, we have a gentleman, Mr. Bailey, who was pictured in one of my photographs that was in the local newspaper. Mr. Bailey is retired. Bob is out there. And Mrs. Bailey is very happy. Bob is out there every day doing something. He's on Facebook group contacting everybody. He's always looking for more information. He has a really good relationship now with the horticulturist for the Parks Department because he's constantly calling and asking questions. But you know, I think because of the way we structured it, the commitment is 2 years, but you're only required the spring, midsummer, right before it gets really hot, and then the fall. We ask folks to come out in the springtime before, you know, the invasives get big, and then to come back out in June before it gets really hot, and then come back in July and cut back vegetation and things that need to be cleaned out that have died back. We found that works for folks. You know, you look at the Adopt a Spot on the side of the road. It's a lot of effort. It's hard. There's traffic. There's cars driving, depending on if you're in a medium. And ours, you know, we tend to have attracted groups of folks, young families, civic groups, Girl Scouts, Boy Scout groups. So it's been pretty successful. We advertise every year. I have discouraged a few groups from taking them just because I just didn't think it was something that was going to work for them. Student groups, mostly, to be honest, because the turnover is so high, you know, they'll say, you know, we can do the 2 years, we'll be here, but, you know, everyone that's signing up is in their senior year of school, so they're leaving. So other than that, it's been quite successful. You know, we're getting a couple extra groups a year, and we hope to have all 45 done maybe in the next year or 2. But, you know, I'm not pressuring anybody to do it. It is helping us on maintenance issues, and it cuts down on what staff has to do. But it's finding the right individuals that want to do it and want to take the time to do it, just like anything. You know, if folks are going to volunteer, you're really going to want to find the right people that are going to want to get into it. That's it.
Great, thank you, Mike. Madison, our next question is for you. Can you please discuss successes as well as potential setbacks related to the use of porous pavement, such as concerns over winter weather and snow on the porous pavement?
Yes, certainly. So we have had some progress in our implementation of porous pavement. We've actually moved entirely away from porous concrete. At the beginning of the program, we were using porous asphalt, porous concrete, porous pavers, and that flexible porous pavement. I think I had a picture in there that's made out of recycled rubber. The porous concrete was just not consistent enough in terms of holding up and having enough time to cure before winter weather. We use a lot of salt around here.
We've had the same problem.
So we've totally moved away from porous concrete. Porous asphalt, we found, is holding up really well. We worked with the local asphalt plants too to make changes to the binder to make it hold up a little longer. But we're seeing really good resilience of our porous asphalt. A lot of our parking lot projects that use porous asphalt are a combination of porous and traditional asphalt, where we kind of use like a perimeter or a section of porous parking lanes and drain the rest towards that porous pavement. And we're seeing that in most cases the porous pavement is holding up better than the traditional pavement because we leave enough room below the pavement that the water can sink below the frost line. so you don't get that freeze thaw and frost heaves, and you don't get black ice forming on the surface, and it's all around actually performing a little better in winter weather. We do advise the folks who maintain the parking lots to use less salt because it's not sitting on the surface and refreezing on those porous areas, and also to either lift the plow blade up a little or put a rubber edge on plow blades in order to prevent them getting kind of scuffed up and damaged from snow removal. But we're seeing that the porous pavement is holding up really well, again, with the exception of porous concrete, which we've abandoned throughout our whole program. The porous asphalt is holding up really well. We've liked the porous pavers, especially for on-street parking lanes, with a curb kind of between at-grade curb between the road and the porous pavers to keep them in place. But we're seeing that all except the porous concrete are holding up really well. And if anybody wants to, as I said, steal our project, if you want to see the technical specifications on our parking lots, you can go right to our website, savetherain.us, and see the technical specifications and the plans and everything for all of our projects. And if anything's not there, you can email me about it. But for the most part, we try to get everything uploaded as soon as things are in final design. But we have learned from our mistakes, and some of the precast porous concrete that are used like for sidewalks and things hold up okay because they're able to cure kind of in a controlled environment. But if you have winter weather, I would recommend not using poured in place porous concrete.
Madison, I agree 100%. We've had the same exact issues.
Thank you, Madison. So we have about 5 minutes left in the question and answer session. So we have one question that might be a bit big, but if we could keep it concise, that would be great. This is for both of you. What challenges have you faced when engaging the public about green infrastructure in neighborhoods? What were some of the community's concerns? And Madison, we'll start this one with you.
I think you really have to come to the community before you have a design finalized, or there's no point in having it. I think that's kind of been a misstep in some programs. You know, when people have to have mandatory public meetings, if you don't come to the meeting really prepared to listen to the community, it's not useful to really get that input. So I think we try to get to the community when we're kind of around 25% design, and we have some concepts, and you know, we'll bring mock-ups or photos from other, especially rain gardens. The aesthetics of a rain garden can vary widely in the reception of different communities. Some people really like the sort of you know, shaggy grasses and woody shrubs. Some people think that looks, you know, uncared for, like it's an abandoned asset. So we try to really get that community feedback, what people like, what they don't. You know, if there's some flexibility in where we put something, especially like within parks, you know, people that go to that park every day, you know, where would you like to see a rain garden or more street trees? Really going prepared to listen early on in the phase, and then coming back to them before you're at final design as well. I think that's really critical to getting community buy-in and listening to their feedback. And you can't always make everyone happy, but if they feel they've been heard and that their feedback is actually valuable, that's really the key. And again, bringing different examples and photos and visuals really helps spur that conversation. Because if you just talk about rain gardens, some people don't know what rain gardens are. So bringing those visuals and being prepared to adjust your design. Most of the time people don't want to adjust, you know, what type of gravel you're using in your base or anything like that. They want to adjust, you know, how it's going to look on the outside, and those are usually pretty easy things to adjust in the design process.
Great, thank you, Madison. Mike?
I agree with everything she said. Everything she said is the same things that we deal with here. I think the most important part is what she said, listening to people, a design to look. I think a lot of times when people think of these things or from what they think they know, it is, like she said, the abandoned lot look, that it's not, it's not going to look pretty. It's going to look like a bunch of weeds, and it's not going to be cared for. I think convincing them, what the benefits are of this, that it helps the pollinators, the bumblebees, it helps treat stormwater, it helps improve your environment, and it's good for everybody, and these things can look like something. That's the biggest thing we learned along Providence Road was you have to maintain them to a degree. It has to carry a shape or a design to look to it. And then information, getting that information out, putting up small signage. It doesn't need to be a billboard explaining what it is, but something simple that someone can read and briefly understand what it is that it's doing and how they can find out more about it. I think those are the most effective things you can do to educate people about this. And I think the more people get on board with these things, I have a funny story. I'll tell it real quick. We had an area, it was a big, huge field. It was a couple of acres. We turned, everybody wanted it to be something. They were going to turn it into a wildflower field. Everyone threw a fit. They didn't want it. It was a walking area. People were afraid for their safety. Deer, snakes, rats, whatever. We heard it all. 4 years later, it was decided that we had that they were going to mow it. It hadn't been mowed in about 3 or 4 years, just for the natives that were in it. We went and mowed it. Everyone lost their mind. They couldn't believe we mowed it. We destroyed this beautiful, the thing that 4 years ago they didn't want, we mowed it for one season, and they lost their mind because they thought we destroyed it. So it just shows you how quickly people's attitudes can change about these things, especially if they're educated and they end up to like them.
I think I'll just jump in with one more thing. I think making it fun is also something that really changes the dynamic. Instead of just having, like, humdrum public meetings, we've done things like design charrettes where people get to come and actually kind of sketch out their ideas, and people can get really excited about that. It can morph a lot along the way, but making it a little more fun and a little interactive. We also have some events I didn't mention in this just because of time, but our Clean Water Fair. We have this big sort of festival every September where we showcase a bunch of the projects that we've done and some of the projects that are coming up, and people can come and engage with us in a sort of fun atmosphere. We have a bouncy house and face painting, but we also have a lot of really great educational displays and green infrastructure walking tours and things like that that get people out there and really excited about it.
I agree. I think getting people involved and letting them feel like they're part of the process, it's a win-win for everybody.
Great. Thank you, Mike and Madison. It sounds like you both are making strong efforts to make it fun for everybody, yourselves included. That concludes our question and answer session. I'd like to thank Mike and Madison for joining us today and all of our participants for listening in. This webinar was recorded, so if you missed any part of it or would like to revisit these excellent presentations, check back to the EPA Green Infrastructure website link at the bottom of the screen. This concludes our 2016 webcast series. We will announce our 2017 webcast series on the EPA Green Infrastructure website by early 2017. Thank you to everyone who has already submitted recommendations for the 2017 webcast series topics. If you have not yet submitted a recommendation, please look for a follow-up email to this webinar for an opportunity to do so. This ends our webcast for today. Thank you so much for joining us.